Now, I'm Chris Nyhuis, CEO of Vigilant. Obviously, now we're looking for investment. But what I am looking for is one of the things that Vigilant does is we don't ask you to purchase from us until we show you forensically that what we can do actually works. And so from the very day we started, we give people the opportunity to have 7 days of free assessment in their environment. We actually do a full threat assessment, and we give you a delineation line in your environment. We actually will take a site of yours for 7 days, and we will declare it clean or not. And we actually put that in writing. If you become a client of ours, we actually put a line in the sand that says, hey, from this day forward, you will have free, unlimited instant response, no stipulations, no questions asked, nothing like that. We're the only ones in the entire industry that actually have that approach. There are some companies this last year that started trying to, because they were losing some business from us, some market share. They actually decided that they would start marketing that. It hasn't worked out well for them. It's actually cost them a lot of money. And the reason for that is back to the whole thing about putting client value first for us, is that when you put client value first, what you do and what you say has to work. There's no option for it not to, because we don't have investor money to come in and clean up things with a marketing campaign or something like that. What we do has to work. And the things that we do inside Vigilant has to actually be effective. So it forces my team to solve those problems that really matter at the very core of the issue. So is this going to work? I think it works. So, it's all right.
It's because of the music.
It's because of the music. All right.
And now it will work.
Right. So here at Vigilant, at the very core of what we do, if you've ever watched Silicon Valley, one of the things that really stuck out is he didn't really know what the really core what he did was when he first walked into investors, but the investors realized what it was.
When you're talking about Silicon Valley, or are you talking about
Silicon Valley, the show. Sorry. I apologize. Yeah, there's a show called Silicon Valley. It's really great. It's about startups. But one of the things that was interesting for him is he didn't really realize what they really had. And the really core of what Vigilant does is we make cybersecurity data validated. If you took our services, which are stellar, by the way, and our team's amazing, but you didn't give them validated data, they wouldn't be able to do what they can do. Vigilant, in fact, for 15 years has never had a client who's had ransomware that's successful or a breach. Not $1 paid out to instant response. None of that for 15 years because of this, because we validate the data inside your environment. What does that mean in the industry, though? What is the problem? Why are cybersecurity companies, why are companies still continuing to get hacked? If you look at this graph here, this is from 2019 to 2023, but the important thing to realize is back in 2010, the mean time to detect in the industry was less than 30 days. Less than 30 days. Now, 2019, 206 days, up to 280 in 2020, 2012, or 212, 287, up to 287 now. It's been pretty consistent there. And that should be a kind of an interesting thing for you to note, because if you look at the growth of the industry, and this is up to 2030, massive growth in the industry. And those things should correlate a little bit different, right? You should, with more spend, you should see less attacks. Now, this has been explained away in the industry by more advanced threat actors, more advanced threats. I will tell you that that's not true. We're actually not seeing more advanced threats that are getting inside organizations. What we're seeing is that organizations are dealing with less of the right data. They're focusing on things like this. If you look on the right-hand side, low trust, medium trust, high trust. Low trust data is where almost most of cybersecurity is done. It's done in logs and SIEM. It's technologies that collect your data. Now, what's their business model? Store as much freaking data as they possibly can of your environment because it costs you more and they make more money. The strategy behind that is they don't really know what data is important and they don't know where the threat actor will be, so store it all. But you spend more money. When we have done incidents over the last 15 years, we've rarely found effective data inside logs. The reason for that is because they are the most manipulated data set and possibly in your entire environment. The second to that is EDR, network spanning. It's medium trust data. So if you think about it, if you've ever had a friend that lied to you, did you ever fully trust that person again? What did you have to do to trust them? You had to validate them with someone else you fully trust. And that's exactly what happens in cybersecurity, is that we have systems that are potentially compromised already that we're taking all of the primary data from to tell us whether or not we've been breached. They're not validated systems. They're highly manipulated entities. From a log to an endpoint, and you can get on YouTube right now and see all kinds of ways to get around any type of EDR that's out there. If you ever want a demonstration, we can show you. It takes about 5 minutes. But what Vigilant does is we put our patented technology in place where we can actually come into your environment, create logs instead of collecting them, do a first source approach to what's happening in your environment, and then we can take that, and very much the way a lawyer does differentials on documents, so you don't have to pay them as much. We can take other data within your environment from less trusted data sets, and we can do a differential on it, and we can immediately see if there's a difference, that there's a compromise within that environment. So we literally can find the needle in a haystack. What Vigilant's been able to do with inside organizations is take that mean time to detection of 287 days now, and over 15 years, we've never been over 4 hours. And you'll find a lot of organizations out there will tell you that their mean time to detect is 15 minutes. What they really mean is from the 287th day. And it's really easy for them to slide around that because they don't have forensics within inside your environment. They're not doing full continuous PCAP anymore. They're not doing analysis within your cloud environments. They're not able to actually dig deep and pull information forensically out where Vigilant can. And so when you work with us, we first create truth and trust in your organization, and we bring trust to everything else you're using, which brings dramatic ROI inside your infrastructure, and it will only take us 7 days to prove that to you. And it doesn't cost you a dime. And so we don't ingest them. We ingest logs, we create them. And ultimately across endpoint, across networks, across logs, vulnerability management, we provide services around our technology if you don't have your team to be able to provide the analysis on it. It's my first investor pitch. Hopefully that was okay.
So thank you for that. I appreciate that you're focusing on mid-large biz, what Eric was saying. Mm-hmm. I say on all podcasts and interviews I do, I said, we need to remember that there's the Fortune 500 and 5 million other companies.
Yes, right.
So that 99% is the problem. Mm-hmm. And, you know, the meantime repair and all the things of increasing of like, yes, we have great technology. Yes, we have great things, but it's the 99% who do not have the people. Mm-hmm. Technology supports a process. It sounds like you're trying to introduce a process and support a process for those who don't have it, which is great. But my question is like, how does it work? I've heard, I can derive from things you said, talk about PCAP, talk about not generating logs. So I'm feeling like somewhat XDR-ish, where you're doing APIs into stuff and doing crowdsourcing while you're using other stuff and correlating it and doing things like that. But from an engineering background, when I listen to vendors, I'm like, just tell me how it works and what's the implementation. And then I can derive like how useful that is and do I have a process to support that?
Yeah, right. No, Rick, that's a great question, man. And, you know, what's interesting about security technology is that, you know, I do agree that a lot of organizations don't have people, and the 99% of them don't have the people. The technology is becoming very, I guess, centralized across multiple vendors that are used in the Fortune 500 to Fortune 1000 to Fortune 5, right? Fortune 1. And we do talk to organizations up and even in the Fortune 5 and into higher levels. But as I go up there, I have to tell you names and entities. But the thing that remains across all of those organizations is the same thing. You know, the higher you go up in an organization, the more precise an individual team member is. And you get problems like we had in 9/11, where you have independent silos of information inside an organization. What Vigilant does within inside an org is we look at your environment first, and we actually help you design a security program. And from that, we start with deploying our physical technology within inside your infrastructures, whether it's your data centers or your offices, because your people are still being the ones that are attacked first. Now, I fully understand we have remote entities now and people working from home, and we have solutions for that. But the very first place we like to start is really getting down to a full stack detection. Most technology out there right now only operates from layer 6 and up. If you're familiar with the OSI model, yeah, layer 6 and up. And if you really dig under the covers of a lot of these technologies, even firewalls and endpoint detection technology, they're operating up in those upper layers, very manipulatable by a threat actor. Vigilant has remained in the entire stack, developing technology to continue to be able to dig deep into the actual layers and the communication pathways and understanding what's happening there. So we're taking data across all of those layers, we're combining that, and we're able to actually track threat actors as they dig down in, because that's where most of attacks are actually happening, is below layer 6, because threat actors know that most detection doesn't happen there. So that applies to whether it's the 1% of organizations out there or the 99% that don't have people. Because even at the 1%, those teams still have to be equipped with the right data to be able to solve the problem. Now, the way we do that physical detection is we actually we create an out-of-band network with inside your infrastructures that we design for you. We deploy our physical hardware inside your environment. You don't purchase it, we own it. We maintain it, we manage it, we upgrade it, we function on it. But we deploy that in, and we're immediately creating these fully trusted source baselines. Does that answer your question a little bit more?
So are you, because we look at layer 1, we need like a hardware root of trust on devices.
Yeah, so when you look at...
You just have a sensor and an out-of-band network that is on the network that can crowdsource and kind of see things, but you're not putting anything on any devices. You don't have like agents on it.
No, we do. Yeah, so that's where we extend into endpoint. I was just talking more about the network side. So we deploy our physical hardware sensors. That's what really brings truth.
So they work as collectors, but you're pushing out agents to all the devices.
Across your devices.
And is it a hardware root of trust? Are you doing like a rootkit kind of thing to like get, because if you're talking about all the layers, then you're talking about chipsets.
Yeah, right. So on the actual physical detection networks and on the actual infrastructure as things are passing through, we're doing layer 2 and up detection. From a physical network layer, we're actually investigating just the detection networks itself, because we're validating full chain of custody inside your environment. So for things like investigations, a lot of the investigation has to do with validation, whether or not things really happened or not, and things have been manipulated. Because we've created those trust sets, because we have a patent that allows us to create full chain of custody all the way to the hardware level, we're able to provide information that initiates investigations really rapidly. Okay. Does that make sense? You have more questions? Okay.
All right, I have a question for you. So in terms of compliance, let's use PCI DSS. You're going to be looking at, I'm going to be naked. You're going to be able to see cardholder data, social security numbers, confidential, restricted, top secret data, depending on what classification layers different companies have. Are you PCI certified? Does that data ever leave your environment? Or the people that are exercising, do they have the proper training? Is it metadata? Do you guys actually log in? How do I qualify and quantify that whatever data you're going to be looking at, manipulating, touching, using your patented systems? How do I know for sure I don't have scope creep in terms of adding now a whole nother out-of-band network, your systems, your services, and your company into my audit?
Yeah, one of the great things about us, we really looked at that, right? Because when you're doing deep level investigation, how do you actually balance compliance and investigative analysis and protect that data coming in and out? So things like PCAP, for instance, we do distributed investigative analysis and distributed storage, right? So we store that out inside our client environments. The way in which we collect, though, and the way in which we deploy, we are actually looking at your environment to see if you are PCI or HIPAA compliant or TISIX compliant or CJIS compliant, whatever compliant target you're looking at. And we actually will create specific detections around to identify whether or not your data is passing encrypted or not, or correctly. If we see those types of things in the data that's passing through across your environment, whether it's on the endpoint or it's on the network device itself, then you're probably breaking the compliant targets you're supposed to. And we can rapidly tell you that very quickly. So things like CMMC, we meet 92% of CMMC just by deploying our sensors and our endpoint technology for the security controls within inside the organization. PCI DSS, same things. We're not a processor, and we've been careful to ensure that we're not processing any of that data for you, but we're investigating it. Now, if we do see it, we'll notify you that it's there. We have ways to disposition and take that data out of our systems, but we also make sure that you know that that's there. We help you remediate the compliant risk before you know that before anyone else knows that it's happening. By anyone else, I mean it's a threat actor. Because one of the biggest problems with organizations is they may not, when they're doing compliant targets and they check a box and someone reads a document or they write a policy information document and an auditor comes down and checks it off. Sometimes there may actually be traffic still passing in ways that are not compliant. So we're able to identify that before a threat actor is able to come in and actually pull that off the wire. We've identified, actually, one of 3Tree's clients, we came in and did one of the 7-day assessments. we found that there was over 10,000 EDI transactions with PII going, and some of it on the actual employees of the organization going outside of the org. They didn't know that was even happening because it was all historical processes. They only knew of 2 EDI transactions. So it was pretty nuts.
But you are decrypting the traffic. You have to be able to see inside. Okay.
No, and so our endpoints also operate pre-encryption on the devices.
That's how you're getting past the idea of seeing PAN.
Exactly. Right. Yeah.
So what other question do I have for that? So that would increase my scope at all, no matter what, right? That out-of-band network, you won't be seeing data, you won't be transmitting. Is it like an outpost model? So it stays all in my house?
Yeah, it stays in your house. Now, log event and metadata comes back to us. Okay, so logs that we create, metadata, heuristic data.
As long as it's scrubbed properly.
It's scrubbed properly. Yep. Yep. Absolutely. And PCAP stays on site, and it has full chain of custody for access to it.
Yeah, I can get so if you're capturing the PCAP, are you compressing it in some way? Because let's say we're doing petabytes, millions of transactions a second. Let's say I'm the biggest processor in the world. I figure some aspect, do you log through? How long do you store all that data? How can you guarantee that? Well, I guess if you do it within a few hours, you only have to store for so many hours. But what if there's an advanced persistent threat that's been hiding like a state actor forever? For some reason, they're picking on me.
Yeah, for sure. No, absolutely. I was talking to I spoke here a few years ago, speaking to a CISO from one of the major banks here in Chicago. And he asked me the same question. And I asked him how long he was storing PCAP data. He said, at best, an hour. One of the major banks. All of our clients, we design, when I say we design a security program, we design the deployment of our sensors. Because here's the thing, we have unlimited incident response. We actually have shared risk with you. If you get attacked, we're on the dime for paying for your forensic investigation. So when we use technology or we develop technology, we deploy something out, our own risk is on the line, right? So when we're designing the security programs for you, we actually look at, okay, what do we need to do, right? Now, from a client standpoint, we want to design at least 2 weeks, at least. Now, we do compress that inside of that, different file sizes. We can extract it out. We can actually do a post-analysis on it. So say we have a new threat indicator, we can actually run that back through all the PCAP that's stored on that system, log event network metadata, and replay your environment. It also helps from an operational standpoint. I mean, how many times have you had operations issues within your organization that are intermittent, and you got to wait around for it to happen, and someone's like, oh, it just happened, but it's at 2 a.m. and no one was there to actually do analysis. Because we're recording your entire infrastructure, you can have a problem at 2 a.m, find out about it, and come in and say, hey, can you guys find out what happened with this ops issue? And we can literally go back, replay the network, and tell you exactly that it was our broadcast from a bad network part on this one specific system over here. And you can fix it easily. So when it comes to PCAP, we can go beyond that. It's just is really up to whatever the organization wants to consume. You know, what do you want to pay for? Yeah. But it's, and at that point it's a storage cost, because we're not doing more analysis on it unless we have to. But we just add storage costs.
Perfect. Great answer. Thank you so much.
We have some clients that are a year.
Right in the gut.
Yeah. We have some clients that are a year, by the way.
You've never had a compromise. How do I know your services, the guaranteed services, no offense, is worth its weight in gold in a response scenario?
Right. So we let you talk to our clients. We don't publicly release their names. And that is because we understand cyber warfare. One of my biggest pet peeves is when cybersecurity companies put your logo on a website, because now they know exactly what they're up against. So we've never done that, not one time. It's actually written into our contracts that we'll never release your name ever. Now, if you want to talk to one of our existing clients, we do have clients that are willing to do that, but only under NDA. And we have a specific process that takes place. So where our client, we send you an NDA, our client gets your information, they approve you. We actually do some investigation on you, because most of the deals, the new clients that come to us come through trusted channels, but we do additional analysis on you, who you are, because just so you know, there are cybersecurity companies out there and even organizations that have embedded threats all over the place. We've actually found one together, but we investigate. Yeah. Okay. But we validate it.
Yeah. So, Shefali, the last question, and then.
Yeah. So this is the real question here.
Let's go, Shefali.
So not technical at all, but you're asking us to invest in you, and you mentioned that there's some free services that you're offering. How are you in business?
Yeah. So the free service is for you to see whether or not what we do works. Like for Rick, there's a lot that goes behind that we do behind the scenes, right? That is hard to talk about in a 5-minute conversation. And when we walk in the door and you hear massive organizations that have breaches all the time, And we can say that organizations that we protect, like defense environments, hospitals, IoT infrastructures, manufacturing companies, major banks, they haven't had incidents since they've been working with us. That's a pretty big claim. And it's hard to believe in today's world. But that's why we say we prove it, right? And so the free services, we come in for 7 days. Now, what will blow your mind is what we can do in 7 days, because it also kind of piss you off a little bit for some of the other things you've done, vulnerability assessments or pen tests or things that you've paid a lot of money for, and you get a lot less information than you get in 7 days. In 7 days for free for us, you actually get a full assessment report. And we're so confident, right, that we can prove ourselves to you, that we know that when we do that, it's an investment in you, not you having to invest in us, because the amount of time your team has to spend in that is very minimal. It's about an hour during that time frame, unless we find an incident, and then we help you with it. And then you have the choice at the end of 7 days to become a client or not. And there's really no risk to you other than that 1 hour of your team's time.
Thank you.
So, thanks.
Appreciate it. And then thank you guys, everybody. The last question is in or out. Remember what the intent of it all is. You're either out and you got a reason why you're out. You don't have to do it if you don't want to. Also, if you want a deeper dive with the Vigilant team in regards to what they do. So I'll start with Mr. Kuna.
Sure. I would say pretty well. Let me see if there's proof in the
I love that.
Yeah,
Do it.
To be honest, I don't believe
It's great.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Most people don't until they see it. Now, I will say we have a 97% close rate from
No more
PFP.
saying anything more.
Oh, I have to say, okay, sorry.
Yeah, I'm in. I need to hear more though.
I'm out. This is all things that we're doing because we're a very big company, but also as kind of like you mentioned, like you're putting something on my environment that you say you control and you own, you are updating and you're maintaining, and we would never be able to accept that.
Since you answered all my questions, I think I'll say I'm in, but just to see where it can go.
Thanks.
Awesome.